got your supplements and functional foods, legal developments, ingredient news, education, inspiration, entertainment, insider in the afternoon.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Insider in the Afternoon. We're here in the dog days of summer. The Olympics are on. People are taking vacations. I'm about out of here. Ola, you're about out of here. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm getting ready to travel over to Germany so I can visit one of our guests today is the reason why secretly. Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent because we do have Shane Starling who is coming in from Germany today. I think he's sipping a proper German ale, and so we'll talk to him a little later about the Olympics and performance enhancing compounds, let's just say. But so it's interesting. You're heading over to Germany, Ola, and your daughter's 21, and I can't help but think that maybe you're gonna have some beers in Germany. Is that gonna happen?
I mean, I will definitely have some beers in Germany. My daughter actually doesn't really drink, so I know. If I had not seen this child emerge from my body, Todd, I wouldn't know. She's far more organized and far more, competent at life than I am, frankly. But yeah, so she actually turned 21 yesterday.
Wow. Well, happy birthday. And so that kind of brings up to me like the concept of heredity and things that you get from your parents and maybe things that you know that your kid is always going to be different from you in one way, and you just kind of hope it's not politics, right? But it's like, all right, well, not drinking, geez, let's let's talk a little about not just heredity but epigenetics, like how different things, toxin exposure, lifestyle choices can affect your gene expression. And then the subset of that is nutrigenomics, which is how nutrition can potentially turn genes on or off. Like your genes are not your destiny, right? Like,
Yeah.
isn't that interesting?
It's super interesting. And it's really, I was excited to talk about this today because a few years ago, we had some family stuff where we actually kind of got exposed to this. And this is a book that I found at that time, someone recommended to me by Dr. Ben Lynch. And it is literally all about that, which I had never heard of such a thing before, just as a normal human being, even though I work in the supplements industry. And it's pretty cool stuff. Like, in the fact that, like you said, I mean, there are things you're sort of wired for, but then you have the ability to turn on and off gene expression through nutrition, through what you eat, through what you shouldn't eat, maybe. And it's actually pretty cool stuff. I mean, I'm no expert on this, but I will tell you, like, this book is pretty dog-eared. It's like splattered because I actually took this on a vacation with me to Hawaii. That's how fascinated I was that I was reading this while I was in beautiful Hawaii.
Wow.
But it's really neat stuff. And I actually think it's really worth people understanding this a little bit more.
That's cool. Have you ever taken one of those gene tests, like a 23andMe or any of the other newfangled ones out there?
Actually, the fellow who wrote this book, which is interesting, I ended up learning he actually lives in the same town that I do in Bellingham, Washington. But and I want to do this, is you can take like your 23andMe or your Ancestry profile, and they have a site you can upload it to. And then they give you sort of like some of the nutritional pieces of like looking at your genetics. These are the things where you see, your MTHFR genes are doing the XYZ or whatever it is. Right. And you can kind of like get some of a profile of like, these are nutrients you may need to think about. So we learned, like, for one of my daughters that likes a couple of the MTHFR stuff. And I had a new way of calling that I don't think I'm allowed to say here, but if you take that, if you were making a license plate out of a swear word and it ended up as MTHFR, that's what I call that. So,
oh my God. I've seen that. And so it's actually Gene Geeks. I just thought it was people who moved here from New York. That's so funny.
So I was like, okay, that's how I usually refer to that one, but I'll be good today. But no, it had an impact in terms of like looking at like the way she processes B vitamins and stuff like that and how that affects energy, and it was actually pretty cool. And again, I'm no expert, but I think it's something really fascinating. So you probably know a lot more about this than I do.
Well, yeah, I've been following it for a little while, and like folate was the first one. What was that, like? Was that B9? I think. That was one that really is good as far as like just your gene expression and limiting chromosomal damage. And they say you need to have at least 200 micrograms a day of that, which is in my multivitamin. I just checked and it's got 250. So I'm like, all right, cool. I'm good on that front. But that it's all very interesting, how there's lots of things that you can do to kind of make your life better, through nutrition. That's exciting. And speaking of nutrition and vitamins, we're gonna cut away right now, and we're gonna go to Andrea Wong at Council for Responsible Nutrition, and she's gonna give us all a nice little tutorial for 5 minutes on vitamin A. Take it away, Andrea.
Thank you, Todd. Hi again, everyone. Today, like he said, I'll be talking about vitamin A. The discovery of vitamin A was an incremental process spanning over a century, starting in 1812, when Francois Magendie found that malnourishment in dogs led to corneal ulcers and death. Around 100 years later, Frederick Gowland Hopkins found unknown factors present in milk that were not fats, proteins, or carbohydrates, but were required to aid growth in rats. He was awarded the Nobel Prize for this discovery in 1929. Other researchers discovered one of these growth-supporting factors, which became known as fat-soluble A and later vitamin A in 1920. Vitamin A is actually a group of fat-soluble retinoids, including retinol, retinal, and retinol ester. Two forms of vitamin A are available in the human diet. Preformed vitamin A, which includes retinol and its esterified form, retinol ester, and provitamin A carotenoids. Preformed vitamin A is found in animal-derived products, including eggs, dairy products, meat, and oily saltwater fish. And the most important provitamin A carotenoid is beta-carotene. Others include alpha-carotene and beta-cryptoxanthin. Sources of provitamin A include fruits, leafy green vegetables, orange and yellow vegetables, and other plant-based products. Vitamin A is commonly available in multivitamins and as a standalone supplement, often in the form of retinol acetate, retinol palmitate, or beta-carotene. According to the 2020 CRN Consumer Survey, 5% of total supplement users report usage of vitamin A or beta-carotene. Usage tends to be more prevalent among male users and users aged 35 to 54. The recommended dietary allowance, or RDA, levels for vitamin A are given as retinol activity equivalents, or RAE, to account for the different bioactivities of each form. For adults, the RDAs are 900 and 700 micrograms RAE in males and females, respectively. There are different RDAs for those who are pregnant and lactating. You may have seen vitamin A amounts labeled in international units or IUs previously, but now vitamin quantity, including vitamin A, is required to be labeled in metric units. Vitamin A is essential for vision, cellular differentiation, organ development, and membrane structure and function. It's also involved in immune function, growth, and reproduction. While vitamin A deficiency is rare in the United States, it is very common among developing countries due to limited access to food sources of this nutrient. According to the World Health Organization, 190 million preschool-age children and over 19 million pregnant women worldwide have inadequate vitamin A levels. Deficiency can lead to health consequences in young children and pregnant women, the most common being xerophthalmia, which is characterized by abnormal dryness of the eye, night blindness, and other signs. Vitamin A deficiency is one of the top causes of preventable blindness in children. Vitamin A is fat soluble, and excess amounts accumulate primarily in the liver, leading to toxicity, which is known as hypervitaminosis A. The daily tolerable upper intake levels, or ULs, for preformed vitamin A include intakes from all sources: foods, beverages, and supplements. The ULs are based on risk of liver abnormalities in adults, birth defects, and a range of toxic effects in infant and children. ULs for beta-carotene and other forms of provitamin A have not been established, as high doses are not associated with toxicity. The only evidence of adverse effects of beta-carotene comes from the ATBC and CARROT studies, which indicated an increased risk of lung cancers in smokers and asbestos workers supplemented with 20 to 30 milligrams of beta-carotene per day. Long-term intakes of extremely high amounts of beta-carotene can lead to carotenodermia, a condition in which the skin becomes yellow-orange. This is otherwise harmless and it's reversible. Vitamin A can interact with certain medications, for example, orlistat, a weight loss treatment can decrease the absorption of vitamin A and beta carotene, causing low plasma levels in some patients. Additionally, some synthetic retinoids can increase the risk of hypervitaminosis A when taken in combination with vitamin A supplements. Be sure to always talk to your healthcare provider about the supplements you're taking or thinking about taking in the future. Thanks for your time, and please feel free to reach out to me with questions about vitamin A or other dietary supplement ingredients.
All right, Andrea Wong, PhD, CRN, the science behind supplements. Andrea, thank you so much for making us all just a tiny little bit smarter today. Really appreciate that. And now, this is really great. You know, Supply Side West, they had their pop-up event in Phoenix, and we've been showing videos. Sandy Almonders is interviewing some luminaries in the industry, and she shanghaied Jim Tonkin, and they're going to talk drinks and functional beverages. I'm going to have one myself right here. Take it away, Sandy, and let's talk to Jim about drinks. Drink.
Hi, Sandy Almonders here at Supply Side Phoenix, here in my hometown, Phoenix. I'm super excited to be here at the event. I'm sitting with Jim Tonkin, who is the founder and president of Healthy Brand Builders. Hi, Jim. Thanks for coming.
Sandy? Great to be here.
Thanks for driving across town from your house in Scottsdale to be here.
Took 20 minutes, but it was worth it.
So we're here to get to know Jim a little bit better and get a flavor of the personalities in this industry. So, Jim, what has become apparent to you since the last time we were all together at a Supply Side event?
Well, what became apparent, obviously, is the mask wearing. It's been a weird thing because I pride myself in knowing people's faces and their names. And being at the end of my career, it was a test today. I saw a few people on the show floor who I didn't remember. Their eyes were very familiar, but I couldn't see their smiling face.
Yeah.
So pulled the mask down. Now I remember you.
Yes.
So that's been apparent since the last Supply Side event.
Yeah, the masks, there's much more masks. There's masks at all.
There are indeed. There are indeed. And some funny ones as well.
See, he knows everybody. So, my second question for you is, what was your first job in the industry?
Well, in the industry, I'll kind of give you where I came from.
Yeah.
So my father was in the soft drink industry. So as a kid, I grew up working for him every weekend and holiday season. But when I graduated from college, I started in medical school because I thought I wanted to be a physician. That lasted 6 months, and then I went to work for my dad full time.
Yeah.
My first job was working in a production facility in a manual labor job, taking 60-pound cases of glass 7-Up and Dr. Pepper off the line of our plant and stacking them onto pallets. And I did that in the evening, going to work at 11 o'clock and getting off at 7 in the morning. And as a 22-year-old, think back when you were 22, like 2 years ago, and think about how hard that would be with all of your friends, just going out at night to party and stuff,
Right.
and you're going to work at 11 o'clock. Can't have a cocktail, can't do anything because you have to be alert. That was my first job. And by the way, I got a 10-cent an hour differential for working the graveyard shift. $2.10 an hour I made.
Wow, that is amazing.
That was my first job.
We'll have to get together a different time to fill in all the blanks in between then and now.
Indeed.
But now I've got very important trivia questions to ask you, and these
Okay.
were developed especially for you by Judy Bazzazaro, who
Okay.
is our content director of Food and Beverage Insider. Okay, second page. I was on the wrong page. Okay. What category constitutes the lion's share of functional food and beverage sales? Is it functional foods or functional beverages?
I would say functional foods.
Oh, it's beverages.
It is beverages?
Yeah.
How close are they?
Oh, she didn't give me specific numbers.
Oh, not the facts. It's just Judy's
it's
opinion.
just- yeah.
Okay. And I'm taking all that back, and I'm going to answer it's functional beverages, Sandy.
Pretend like you're Judy. That's how you answer these. Okay. When was the Food Safety Modernization Act enacted?
It was in 1998.
Ooh, 2011.
Oh, not even close.
FSMA.
Wow.
Okay, and which president signed FSMA into law?
In 2011 would have been would have been right after Bush. It would have been Obama.
Yes. Good job.
Okay, 1 out of 3. Wow, I did terrible.
Okay. Is CBD approved for use in food and beverage products?
It is not.
Who is the Secretary of Agriculture?
Oh, the new one. I don't even know
It's
who
the
that
second
is.
time
It's
he's
a
been.
Oh,
the
he's gone
secretary.
around twice.
Yeah.
Give me his last name initial.
V. TV.
TV. I don't know.
Tom Vilsack.
Oh, sure, I remember him. Yeah. Who
What
did
is-
he serve before?
Obama.
Okay.
So Obama and now Biden.
Okay.
You know.
Okay.
They're
Of course.
friends. They're friends. Okay.
I should know that, but I
What
don't.
is a flexitarian?
A flexitarian is somebody that eats. They're more of they're a vegetarian, but they eat fish, or don't eat fish. Which is it?
They eat some meat.
Some meat. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have a flexible diet, meaning they
Yes.
hang on one side and they hang on the other.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just like a normal.
I kind of think of
person.
myself as a flexy kind of a guy.
Yeah,
so I'm
there
a
you go.
flexitarian.
What is HPP?
High pressure processing.
I knew you'd get that. What years did the most recent dietary guidelines for Americans span? I think this is a hard one.
That what year was in?
The most recent dietary guidelines for Americans, what does that span?
I don't know. Last 10 years?
2020 to 2025.
Oh, so the next 4 and this one.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, you'll have to blame Judy for how hard these were.
Well, obviously, not a lot of those were not beverage, and the Department of Agriculture. I would need to know that for my world. Only the Shea guidelines and also the FDA.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, I should.
I'll
have
get
asked you
Judy
that.
back. I thought she was a good friend of mine, and I learned something different here.
Well, thank you so much for joining, for playing, and
My
we love
pleasure,
seeing
Sandy.
you.
Good to see you.
Okay, bye. Back to you, Todd.
Functional beverages, baby. That was really fun. And, you know, the Olympics are on. I hope you're all watching it. I tuned in last night. That was kind of fun. And, you know, Olympics are a global sport. And so we're going worldwide here on the World Wide Web. We've got with us the estimable Peloton leader of the nutrition world, calling in from the outskirts of Berlin, Germany, Shane Starling. What's up, mate? Speak-
willkommen in Deutschland, Todd. We're honored to be on the
Ooh.
podcast. Yeah, that means welcome to Germany in Germany. Ola would know that, maybe.
Probably. And
Very
also,
nice. Yeah.
he's from Potsdam. Can we give Potsdam the credit that it
Yeah,
deserves?
pick up the
for a
to the
minute?
Potsdam posse. Damn right.
Thank
That's it. I've had a lot of important treaties determined here, and other.
We're
things.
happy to have you either way.
Like,
You know,
Sorry.
so you know, so and Shane, you
We
know,
used to be
unlike
colleagues.
Ola, we did. Shane and I worked for Functional Ingredients magazine, Functional Foods and Nutraceuticals, back in the noughties, as I like to call them, the decade after the turn of the century. The turn of the century. I love that. We can now call it that.
pre CBD times, pre CBD.
That's true.
Yes,
industry.
I think you might be right. You know, okay, so beer, CBD. Now we're getting somewhere. So, you know, Shane, you just had a baby who's like still 0, right? Like not even 1 yet. And
That's why I drink beer out of supersized cans.
now that is a proper German-sized beer can. I'm loving that. Now you're from Australia originally. Now Australia, they used to have the Foster's oil cans. That's giving a Foster's oil can a run for its money right there in
Give
size.
it a run. It's up there. Yeah, but nobody in Australia actually drinks Foster's. It's only for tourists. But anyway,
Is that right?
Well,
So
maybe.
is your baby sniffing colostrum powders? Is that getting the little infant up and running?
I've got the little guy on L-carnitine in the morning. Just gives him that little boost so that he can do his interval training before lunchtime.
That's really funny. So you know, on this side of the pond, we have Simone Biles. Now she's making all the news, and she was the American gymnast who withdrew from the team finals, and which the U.S. went on to lose to the Putins, and she said it was her mental health, and she said, I have this quote: "I say put mental health before your sport. It's been a long year. I think we're too stressed out. We should be out there having fun. You have to be 100%. If not, you get hurt." today's been really stressful. I was shaking. I couldn't nap. I've never felt like this going into competition. I tried to go out and have fun, but once I came out, I was like, no, my mental health is not there. And also, Japanese tennis star Naomi Osaka, she lost and she blamed the Oli pressure too. Now, stress, sleep, nerves, I can't help but think CBD. I mean, shouldn't that be like perfectly fine? Like, it's not really a performance enhancer, but it could be just the thing. What do you think about that, Shane?
Well, I think like one of the strongest indications for CBD is stress relief and sleep promotion, isn't it? In terms of the science that exists. So I guess it'd be interesting to know how many athletes are actually taking CBD at the games. I don't know how many. Is there maybe 11,000 athletes that are there, something like that? It'd be interesting to know how many, but I guess they're still worried about the doping issue, aren't they? Because, there are those trace cannabinoids that are in CBD, and therefore it's a little bit tricky for the athletes to take. But it certainly seems like, it can help athletes like Biles and others that might have these mental health issues.
Right. I mean, didn't WADA approve of CBD, but of course not THC? Do I have that right? Do you know?
Well, that's the problem, isn't it? I mean, WADA has said CBD is okay, but THC is not okay. Well, at a certain threshold, you can get something like 150 nanograms per milliliter of urine concentration, something along those lines. But then there's all the other trace cannabinoids that are really kind of in a gray area, in that they're not banned. Maybe Olo can correct me in this area, but they're not banned, but they're not really being tested for. And if they were, then there might be a problem. Is that the status quo, Olo?
It's interesting because I have heard a number of different things about sort of the testing thing. And I honestly am not quite sure what's right. And I don't know if there are different types of tests or nobody really quite knows that if you end up testing, are they testing for cannabinoids, of which one is THC? So therefore, if you test positive for cannabinoids, there's an assumption, or are there, I'm not sure what tests are able to break it down and parse it succinctly enough to know. And again, this is not my area of expertise by any stretch, but I know that is a concern for people and I've personally called labs to try to parse this, coming from a CBD company. And I never can get a very straight answer from anybody saying, again, obviously the labs that we as companies send to, it's different than you peeing in a cup and getting a test, right? A drug test. And so I've never personally been able to get a straight answer from a sort of typical medical testing lab that somebody would, do a drug test through. How are you able to discern between CBD, THC, CBN, CBG? All of these just different cannabinoids. So I don't know. I'm hoping somebody out there can give us, more information. This might be a great show in the future, Todd, but I've never been able to get a straight answer from a lab. And therefore, I think all of these people who are concerned about this, whether it's for sports or for they're a truck driver or whatever, people are terrified of it because they don't know for sure. Even if I'm totally not taking THC or I have that trace amount that's in a lot of CBD products, am I okay? And this is,
right.
As a company, and working with two different companies now that sell CBD, we've always said, if you're concerned, we get it. We think there's benefit to all these other things, but we also understand you have to have your job. And if we can't give you a straight answer, who can? So I don't really know the answer. Unfortunately.
Yeah. I had a friend who was interested in CBD and she was looking for a job. And I said, I wouldn't, because you might blow a drug test just taking a full spectrum hemp. Maybe the answer is just a CBD isolate. And then of course you don't get the entourage effect benefit, but maybe that's enough. Maybe just a shot of tequila. That always calmed my nerves in the bar scene. I don't know about you. Didn't the Northern Ireland, didn't they claim that drinking helped control the shivers? What did the American College of Sports Medicine say about Tipling?
All I know is I don't want to see you going over a pole vault after a couple shots of tequila, Todd. That's not an image I relish. So, maybe we should go. I've
gone over bars after a couple of shots of tequila. Someone's not pouring me a drink fast enough. Just shots. I'm in.
It'll be entertaining. It might not be sport, but it would definitely be entertaining. Maybe we need to start a whole new thing. Forget the Olympics.
I saw where weightlifting, which is like the classic, Olympic sport, where no one would ever go to see weightlifting. but you would like turn on Wide World of Sports on some random Sundays, and there would be, the weightlifting, and it would be in the Olympics. And now they're looking to ban it because it's so dirty, and everybody's on steroids. And they had the guy who runs it. He said, we're going to have a clean Olympics in Beijing in 2008. This was just in the New York Times today. And in London 2012, 60 lifters who competed at those games tested positive, including 34 Olympic medalists. So it's like, oh my God, like you guys are doing it all wrong, but
unclean and jerk. That's what that is. The unclean and jerk.
The unclean and jerk. Exactly. Unless, what's the problem if we just allow everybody to use whatever substance they can get their hands on, and then it's like, all right, everyone's in, and it's just, whoever's got the best biochemist, game on. What's wrong with that?
Try explaining that to the kids. That's the problem. Maybe that's the way it is. There is a free for all where it's a pharmaceutical frenzy that goes on at events like the Olympics. Maybe that's the dirty truth across a lot of sports. But what happens when you try and explain that kind of ethics to a young person trying to go into a sport and becoming a professional, and at some point they have to make that horrible decision? I don't know. That's a tricky moral question right there, isn't it?
All right. Well, I don't want to be on the wrong side of morality, so a bad idea. What about caffeine? I mean, I'm drinking this highball right now. Baseball, they banned amphetamines in only 2005, but now everybody drinks caffeine, and they drink 5-hour energies, and they drink Red Bulls in Major League Baseball. What's the EU stance on that? Like they're not quite so kosher on caffeine, right?
No, well, that's right. I mean, you might have heard of the European Food Safety Authority. Have you heard of those? That body in Europe.
EFSA.
That's the agency that EFSA. That's the agency that assesses all the science around nutrition and decides whether health claims are, have enough science to back them or not. And they actually approved 4 caffeine claims many years ago, maybe up to around 10 years ago, including caffeine contributes to endurance, and also mental awareness. Maybe this could have helped some of these athletes that are having mental health issues. But then it got to the European Parliament, inside the whole mess of European institutions, and the European Parliament, which is the elected body across the EU's 27 member states. They said, no, we can't allow these claims because it'll promote excessive caffeine abuse or excessive caffeine use. So yeah, it's this crazy situation. So they still kind of have these claims on their products,
Wait, have any of these people ever been to like France and looked at coffee, or England and looked at tea? Or I mean, I'm pretty sure caffeine use is somewhat rampant already. Just saying.
Right. I mean, it's the world's most popular drug, right? Caffeine. And now that it's come out of the coffee cup, it's like it's ubiquitous, and no one seems to have a problem with that. So talk about ethics and legalities and things like that. Now, Shane, you've written on, and this is really interesting, on alcohol's performance enhancing effect. I mean, in the Grecian Olympics 2,500 years ago, I mean, what was the elixir du jour back then?
Yeah, I mean, the Greeks, they would give the athletes they'd give them red wine before the events, and then even more red wine, more gourds of red wine being passed around afterwards. So they were bathing in red wine back in those times. But yeah, I mean, a lot of athletes they've used alcohol. Cyclists have used it to dull pain. You mentioned Irish athletes. There was a snooker player who was famous for drinking and being quite drunk while he played. He did win, but then he had some very negative effects later in his life. So the thing is, when it comes down to the hard science, the American College of Sports Medicine has said that alcohol can be deleterious effects upon a wide variety of psychomotor skills such as reaction time, hand-eye coordination, accuracy, balance, and complex coordination. And not only that, it will not improve and may decrease strength, power, local muscular endurance, speed, and cardiovascular endurance. So all up, you booze, you lose.
Oh, you booze, you lose. However, booze in the stands, I mean, that kind of rings all the bells on enjoying the sports a little better. So, I mean, maybe that's it, is that there is a spot for booze in sports, and it's when you're on the couch or sitting down. I mean, is that the answer?
Why would you even go and watch a game without a beer in your hand? Really?
Right. I mean, there's the old saying, sobriety diminishes, discriminates, and says no, while drunkenness expands, unites, and says yes. And if that just isn't a message for the Olympics, I don't know what else is. And that's all we have time for today. Shane Bloody Shaw Starling, good to see you again, mate. Of course. And we'll see you all next week on another edition of Insider in the Afternoon. Take care and keep chill, people. Keep chill. It's not always about hitting the 300-yard drive. Sometimes you got to have the mental calm to sink that 8-foot putt. That's what I'm saying. And there's nutrition, there's nutrients that can bring that about. And, that's all we're going to have time for today. Thanks for joining us. And Skol, or what's the toast in German?
Prost. Auf Wiedersehen.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Hot dog.
Tschüss.
Wiener Schnitzel.